welcome to those attending on the live stream. So, since we last met, the pace of change and government announcements have definitely not slowed down, and in fact, if anything, they have increased. I'm thinking back to our autumn assembly. That was significant changes to taxation, which we'll be taking a look at a little bit later as part of a wider update on a range of issues and activity that we're working on here in the Chamber. So we're also going to be looking at today business rates with Chris Stern. This is an issue that's been long running over many years, and we're now entering a new phase with more changes coming up and a new share information with you. We also have an update from Wayne Jones, who's going to talk to us today about the Liverpool-Manchester Railway. And then finally we'll be joined by John Rathmell, the Senior Director for Strategy Research and Economy at the Combined Authority, who's going to give us an update on devolution for the City Region and the latest changes in respect of devolution. And we will start with a policy update from Chris. Is invaluable. And I think it's true to say that we are facing a critical phase for business over the next 12 months, and the landscape is clearly changing. But what's important with our assembly is that hopefully we can all be better informed and we can share information, and as a result we can stay ahead of the curve. So welcome everybody, and I hope you find this morning's session really helpful and informative, and I would like to hand over to Chris for our policy update.
It's great to see a full room, really, and a number of people attending the first assembly here today. As Policy Director for the Chamber, it's a tricky time at present because you can be stood here talking about something, and by the time you sat down, the government's decided to change it. So this is relevant and current as at the time of producing the slides. So I think challenge that we're going to do with the Chamber is make sure we can make sense of that for you. So when you've got any changes, anything happening to your business, we can flag it up for you. So starting off there, the avalanche continues, and that's what it feels like, I think, a little bit at the present moment in time. And when you're looking at different sectors and different issues, you get a sense of the scale and pace of change and what government, I think, is trying to do in the current climate. It was a week, I think, after the general election. Then I stood up and gave some outline things of what was in Labour manifesto, what we were planning on doing. I gave an update at autumn assembly, some of it was still on track at that stage. But there's been an awful lot more since we met, as I said, on the 30th of October last year, and one of them being the autumn budget. I'll come back to that in a bit, because that is the thing, I think, that's probably held a lot of people below the waterline, to be brutally honest. We fed back on the industrial strategy. I did a piece at Autumn Assembly just outlining it. We fed back in we shall see. That is being led, and what I wanted to do here is give a sort of sense of which government department's doing what. Because there is an awful lot of people involved doing an awful lot of things, and part of it is trying to work out where the centre of power is in this, who's actually running it. So the industrial strategy is being led by the Treasury, the Department for Business and Trade. They're the two departments that have signed off on the industrial strategy. We get a working white paper. That's now, in Greater Manchester, an 80% employment target will mean over the next 5 years there's going to have to be an extra 150,000 people in or moving towards employment. That's 150,000 more people that there is at the present moment in time to get to that 80% employment rate. That is a big ask, okay? And especially when you see some of the other things happening about it, you do wonder. There is a great Manchester Trailblazer called Connect to Work associated with that, and that's designed really to bring Job Centre Plus into play as that hub for people who are, and again, it's a horrible phrase, economically inactive. I don't particularly like that, but it means it can bring those people back to getting access to those jobs and opportunities where they exist. That's a big piece of work, and you've got 4 government departments involved in that. You've got the Treasury, again. You see that is heavily linked to the health priorities that are coming through as well. So it's about making people healthier, getting them into work, and then obviously you've got, as the governor said, putting money in people's pockets. The devolution white paper came out literally the week before Christmas. It was long said it was going to be out before Christmas, and they just about managed to get it there. And that was around a new devolved land. Next 12 months, or elections for mergers in the next 12 months. And again, that phrase across the city region are included in that. That doesn't mean to say we will ignore anything else that isn't seen by the combined authority as a skills priority, but that is in there as a starting point. Is that going to cause any problems? I don't think so. I think it'll just be more of the same really when it comes to the relationship we've got with the combined authority working on the skills issues. But obviously, as you see, one of the big things that Andy Burnham wants to do is to put that technical education system in place across the city region, so that is a critical bit of that. And that's the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government that's leading on that. So you've got a number of critical departments there working on this. At least with that one, there is just one department working on it, so you've got a clear direct line, and that's primarily Angela Rayner and Jim McMahon, who's leading on that. So that's at least something. We've also done a trade strategy consultation. This came out from the DBT, Department of Business and Trade. And it's looking at how they can make more of how businesses access and what services they get when they're looking to export, which is something we've been very keen on, especially in the post-Brexit era. And we also launched the Enhanced Trade Partnership, where we're working in partnership with DBT, with Midas, and with the Growth Company to make sure, and it's not a brand new service, what it's doing is making it clear for businesses how to access support for exporting. And that's the first one in the country, and that's something that got a lot of notice when it came out. So again, Rex Manchester sort of leading the way there. And then a couple of weeks ago, on the growth plan, we had the Chancellor's speech, which will probably be best remembered for giving the green light for the third runway at Heathrow. That was what the press sort of headlined it. There was also a lot of talk in that around the Oxford-Cambridge investment zone, and new rail lines. Well, it's not new because it's already being built. but a lot of focus on that. Greater Manchester did get a couple of mentions. There's a confirmation of the Old Trafford plan going ahead, which, like I said, was trailing in the newspapers. And also a big mention around the work going on in Stockport, which I think is pretty important because that is looking at what you do around transport hubs. And we've said this for a number of years. You take, for example, Docklands Light Railway in London. If you take Crossrail in London, or Elizabeth Line, whatever you want to call it these days, you look at what happens when you put transport infrastructure, bring it all together in an integrated fashion, and start to build houses around it. All of a sudden, those areas start to take off. So again, there's a good mention of that. Everything else, bit meh, to be quite honest. Because again, there's a lot of it focused in the south, actual confirmation stuff in the south, whereas everywhere else in the country gets a few more promises. So we've got to really, really watch that. The other good bit in that, without getting too technical, was the confirmation that the Chancellor's going to review what's called the Green Book, which is how Treasury works out cost benefits for investments and where they're going to put infrastructure and things like that. And how it's worked out at the present moment in time is that when you've got an area of high growth, that naturally is a good idea because you're going to get more growth from it. That's why the South East gets an awful lot more stuff than the North, because it's a harder ask under the Green Book rules to actually justify that investment. So if you can rip that up and get without it, I think there should be more investment in the North. The problem is, it's under review. How long is that going to take? And then you're going to have to get the plans, and then you're going to have to do this. So we're on a bit of a holding loop with that, but at least it's a step in the right direction. Coming up, we've got spending review, as I said, in spring. There's a new 10-year infrastructure strategy being put together. We've still got the employment rights bill floating around in the background. Skills England will be live in April. And if you may have seen or may not know, but one of the key directors from Greater Manchester Combined Authority, Gemma Marsh, who's spoken at Assembly and leads the employment skills team there, is going to be Deputy CEO of Skills England. So we've got a real ally there and somebody that understands the devolution landscape. So that should be good. We're going to get local growth plans, local Get Britain working plans. John is going to explain a bit more about that when he does his presentation. And we've also got asks from a number of organisations here. So we've got industrial strategy consultation with Department of Business and Trade. They want to speak to sectors, the 8 sectors that are being impacted by that. We're in the middle of working that out. We've got a citizen local growth unit that work under PBT, give monthly feedback, and we've also now got contacts directly into the Treasury as well around monthly feedback, and they're very interested in business and round tables. We've got some direct lines into key government departments now beginning to open up, and they are very, very interested in listening to what we've got to say. So just a couple of things. Autumn budget. I don't want to go into it because I don't want to start them all off in a bit of a negative way. But the national insurance increases coupled with the living wage and minimum wage increases are causing some serious problems for a number of businesses. And we've been out asking for information, getting evidence. I'm in the middle of the final draft of the letter that will be going to the Chancellor in the next few days, just outlining this, and we're going to get our presidential team to sign that to Buster, me or Clive or whatever it is. So actual people who run businesses and are feeling this on the front line. Going back to the Chancellor. It's not a slamming the table and we want this and we want that. It's just outlining in very clear fashion, hopefully, what the impact of this is. When you've got an architect's firm that has got, I think, 120 employees, and it's going to be costing them over an extra £100,000 a year, that's a problem. That is a big problem. And it's not just one-off. That's the next year and the next year. And we've had all sorts of evidence like that. And this is another issue here as well, around impacts on apprentices, recruitment, and possible inflationary impact as well. At QES, a number of responses that came back from businesses saying they were expecting to have to put prices up to cover these costs. It just went through the roof. And business confidence is also going in the wrong direction as well. So that's a big thing there. put a couple of suggestions in there, because I think the Chancellor started a speech on the 29th of January and said, well, I've not heard anything from any opposition parties about alternatives. They're not going to roll back on it. This is going to come in. However, they could perhaps have done it on a fares basis. They could perhaps have done the increase in the rate, and then in a couple of years' time, maybe look to bring the threshold down instead of doing it all in once. Now, that would mean, obviously, the government's not getting enough the revenue in once, but at the same time, businesses are closing their doors literally because of this. They're not getting anything. So, the lesser amount of something is better than absolutely nothing. So, something that. And we're also linking it as well, looking at it again. A couple of businesses have said, well, if it is going to impact on recruitment, how about doing something to act as an incentive? So if you take somebody in, one of those 150,000 people that are looking to get into work, how about doing something around national insurance to encourage people to do that? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, they're going to be taking it off you in one hand and pushing it out in another way. So how can they start to work a little bit more joined up in that? The LSIP Local Skills Improvement Plan, that will continue. There's been all sorts of talk. It may not be public conversations or anything. Looks like you're going down to the pub and saying, hey, what's happening with the LSIP? Maybe you do, I don't know. I certainly don't. And I run the thing. That's going to carry on, and that's a critical bit. And as we've seen, the government, the Labour government, have done something really exciting about it. They've taken what was a Conservative idea, the L6 came out of the last Conservative government, Gillian Keegan signed them all off. And they've not just taken them, but they've actually expanded them. And so to put them through all those, get written working white paper, the industrial strategy, the evolution, the LSIP now is mentioned in all of those and has a critical role to play within that. We're awaiting confirmation from DFE, who run it. There's likely to be an update on things starting in late summer ahead of doing the next LSIP for Greater Manchester, which will possibly come out in sort of summer 2026. That seems an awful long time ago, but it doesn't seem like 5 minutes since I stood up here in 2022 saying this is going to run till 2025. Well, here we are, things happen, don't they? So that should be coming out pretty much soon. We're still doing our work on that. That's critically important because it might be a couple of years' time before some of this starts to come out in the second version. We've still got to make sure that we are speaking to a lot of businesses on this. Joe is in there, and Joe Price sitting on the Joe. If anyone wants to speak to Joe about any skills issues which we can use in the LSIP, that's your person over there. That's Joe who does all our interviews. So far we've interviewed over 160 businesses face to face. And we've also done survey work and other work involving over 3,500 businesses on this at that local level. So we've got an idea about what we need to do on that. And I think that's it. Anybody got any questions? I'm sure what we're doing for time. So, yeah. Anybody got any questions or comments on any of that? It might seem I'm saying a bit critical of the government, and I'm not. It's a bit of frustration, actually, to be quite honest, because they're in danger of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory with some of the decisions that they are making at the present moment in time. And that isn't a political statement by any stretch of the imagination. Whoever is the government has got to do the right thing. They're doing some of the right things, but they're doing it in completely the wrong way. And I think some of the messaging around that has got to be improved as well. Amazing, a number of businesses I speak to are saying, yeah, we want to support this, we really need to get behind some of this stuff, but how making it difficult to do that? So it's just about making sure that we can give our evidence and advice and expertise in the best way possible, and then we can do that.
Just on that first one, we combined
Yeah.
Just that first point, NIC, as opposed to NIC combined with the National Minimum Wage. Have you got any views of course coming through the survey and attitudes towards the objection more to NIC than National Minimum Wage?
I think, yeah, it's mixed pieces, to be quite honest. I think, to be quite honest, the The NIC is the one that sort of grabbed the headlines because that came out of the budget and things like that. If you remember, I seem to remember the Assembly meeting, as we were talking then about the living wage and minimum wage increases which have been announced. And then, so that Ferrari had sort of died down a little bit. And obviously the NIC bit was the bit that, sort of really punched people between the eyes. I think the thing to say about it is, and again, I think this is a view that a lot of business owners have and have expressed this, they're not against that because they see it's right, they see it's the right thing to do to pay people the right amount of money. But being honest, I can't remember which rate it is now, but there's a 16% increase in one of those rates. 16% increase in one of those rates. And some employers have said, well, we'll have to do that. But then I've got, Fred and Sally coming in saying, do I get a 16% increase? So you're getting this pressure built in then within the businesses. I'd say it's a mix. I'd say it's probably, there's people that are concerned about that, but then obviously on top of that, obviously very national insurance stuff. It's pretty hard to segregate really around it. It's that whole piece really, that additional cost that is facing a lot of people at present.
Just to extend on the same point, in the letter you're going to send in, I know from a hospitality point of view, a wider hospitality point, what we're saying there is that really they need to postpone and extend the timeline for reducing the PICs from 10 to 5. That's what we're looking for, because you said the sticking of everything is so intense, with business rates going up, NICs, national living, national minimum wage. So that's one point we're pushing for, just to give you a bit of insight on that. Yeah, and the other thing around it is to push the government to be really cautious about the remit they give to the Low Pay Commission in setting future national living and national minimum wage levels. And I think those are two really key points. You're right, the here and now is the next. Yeah, but we can't lose sight of what's over the horizon. And at some point, it gets very, very challenging. The supermarkets were out yesterday, and I think they were putting out where they were, and they were all of 2 or 3 years ago professing to be, we will pay so much above. That's all pulling back. That came out yesterday on BBC. So just think we need to really put to government, this is across sector, it's across business, and they're creating a lot of problems for the future, and they really need to watch that long-term remit.
I think that's a really good point, Alan, because again, it was the threshold bit really that I think absolutely created this. I was out at an event when the budget took place, and came back in and said, what's going on? And Lewis Crowe works head of membership development, sort of said, oh, they put the rates up, and they've also dropped the threshold as well. And I said, what? And when I found out so much dropped it, that was the bit really, it's the thing that, and as you said there, that phase bit of it, if you know in a few years' time that that's going to happen, you might not agree with it, but at least you can plan better from it. Having 5 months notice to do some of this stuff is impossible. Yeah. 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 We've made that point as already part-time and low paid as well. So. Right, thank you. Sorry, Robin, I don't use this as the last one and then we'll move on.
I was just wondering, Chris, what's actually happened with the apprenticeship levy through all of this?
That's a good question, because I was talking to somebody about that. The apprenticeship levy is in the middle. Well, it is being changed to the skills and growth levy, so the apprenticeship levy doesn't sort of exist anymore. It's been changed into skills and growth, or growth and skills levy, whichever way around it is. And the idea behind that is to give businesses more chance to spend that money on different things, not just on apprenticeships. And coupled with that was all sorts of announcements around foundation apprenticeships and things like that. That was announced a couple of months ago, and it's all gone sort of deadly quiet since then as well. And it's probably going to come back round again in a few weeks. But I've not heard anything extra on that, over how that is going to work. I think some of it may come on the back of Skills England actually being officially formed in April, and you can expect a raft of announcements and things happening around that, can't you? So we'll just wait and see. But it's been moved into a skills and growth levy to enable potentially more widespread spending on a different variety of things. That's the intention of it.
Great, thank you, Chris. Will you give a round of applause? Okay, so I'm delighted now to welcome Krista, who's going to talk to us about business rates, proposed changes and impacts.
Yeah, this is the highlight of the meeting. First of all, the way to start this is to stop you all switching off. Let's not call it business rates, let's call it property tax. It's a tax, and I think people tend to switch off from business rates because they don't understand what it means. It is a tax on property that businesses occupy. And I'm here because attached to the Chancellor's October statement was this document, Transforming Business Rates, to which my reaction was, good luck with that. Back in the summer of 1968, I managed to achieve 3 O-levels, 2 of them being English and Maths. And I applied for a job with Inland Revenue in Scarborough, where I grew up, and I was offered a job in the office of the District Valuation Officer. So I took that for 3 months and stayed 29 years. And then now I've been an agent for a long time on the other side, really trying to involve with business rates. And over the years, since I joined the valuation office, there have been numerous attempts to transform business rates. The most political of all led to the downfall of Margaret Thatcher. Some of you will remember that she promised in 1979 to abolish business rates. And what happened was in 1990, they abolished domestic rating, and Margaret Thatcher had to resign when the poll tax went wrong. And if you just look at what's happened with domestic rating and domestic property tax since, they brought in council tax, which is, we still all pay council tax, but it's still based on the value of properties and houses and flats in 1991. So even that is a big mess. So where we are now with business rates, one of the things you would expect from the business rates, any kind of taxation, is you have a database that's accurate. So briefly, I'll try and explain why the database that we're basing our business rates on is far from accurate. There'll be a number of people in the room. I would have to tell you that I used to teach business rates to new trainees. It took 3 weeks. I've got 10 minutes. But for those of you, and if you've got any questions, just interrupt me. I'd rather be interrupted than sort of keep talking. The way that business rates work is the valuation office agency, which is not your local council, the valuation office agency sets a rateable value, and that is based on their estimate of the rental value of the property that your business occupies. The government then sets a multiplier, which they apply for the rateable value to get the amount of rates that you're going to pay. There are reliefs around which are too complicated to explain. But for example, if the valuation agency sets a rateable value of 20,000 and the government sets a multiplier of 50 pence of the pound, the bill will be £10,000. Well, that makes sense. That's how it works. But you've got to hope that the 20,000 rateable value is accurate. And the difficulty we've got now is in the same way that council tax has a problem with being 1991 values. So you build a house in 2025 and you've got to find a way of giving it council tax back based on what it would have been worth 34 years ago. Well, the database on which we base business rates used to be accurate until 1990 because the local authorities, prior to 1990, they set the rate in the pound. And they used to collect all the money themselves, so they had an incentive to make sure that every alteration to every property and every new property went into the valuation list and got charged rates on it. From 1990 onwards, the government brought in the national non-domestic rate, and for a long time they kept all the money, so the councils had no incentive to go out and make sure that every property, the alteration properties, was up to date. So I know as an agent now, I can take you to properties around Manchester that are £100,000 under assessed. I'm gone. And until now, I'm going to come on to this later, until now, there's been no legal requirement. It's not like income tax or corporation tax. There's been no legal requirement for an occupier of a building to ensure that they pay the correct amount of business rates. But that is changing. But also, I'd like to just talk briefly about what the other things that happen in the budget. You will be aware, I think, that the Chancellor announced that they were going to make a permanent reduction of 40% in business rates for leisure, retail and hospitality. And she announced that as a good thing. And I'm not being political here, I'm looking at the point of view of businesses. But since 2020, the leisure, retail, hospitality have had a reduction of 75%. So that means that for 2024, 25, there's been a reduction of 75%, but for 25-26, the change to 40% reduction is a 140% increase year on year in business rates. Which, if you add that to what Chris was just talking about the national insurance and everything else, that is a big hit. That people, I think, because it's business rates, people don't understand what it means. And people have said to me, it's only 35% increase. And no, it's not. It's a 140% increase. So we've got that to contend with. Then we have this paper about transforming business rates. So it's a great read. I feel there is a test at the end of all this. You've got to, I'm going to give you a paper to check what you know. But in this transformation of business rates, I'll tell you what they're talking about is they're talking about having a permanent lower multiplier for leisure, retail, hospitality. But they're going to pay for that, they say, by having a higher multiplier for properties over $500,000. But I know from experience, not very many of those. So it's a bit like before the election, they were making promises from certain taxes will pay for other taxes. I can't remember standing here, but they make promises like that. We're going to pay for it by having a higher multiplier for the small number of very large properties. The truth is, what's going to happen is that the government will still need to collect the same amount of business rates, it's 35, 37 billion. The way they're going to pay for it, I believe, is, they'll have an extra payments from $500,000 plus rental value. But already, warehouses, workshops, offices are really being caned because based on rental values, the rental values of warehouses and factories has gone way up. I've just done an appeal for a property in Rochdale that went from an 85,000 rateable value to 156,000 rateable value in the last revaluation, and they may go up again. So someone's going to pay for it somewhere. So be aware. In the long run, I believe there will be increases for everybody, except for what it talks about here. It says in the big thing, protecting the high street. Well, there's more than just a high street. That's the physical place. So then also in this. In here, I'll come to, there are very worrying changes coming that are coming in by the back door. Well, they talk about having more frequent evaluations. Well, they do it every 3 years at the moment. I personally can't see how we can do it any quicker than that. Some of you will have seen the forms that come out that ask you for information about your leases and how old the lease is, what the rent is, when's the next renewal, all that stuff. Some of you will have seen that, and that's where they get the evidence from on which to base rateable values. But I don't see how they can do that every year. You're going to get a form every year asking the same questions over and over again. And that's what they're proposing, and that's the window dressing. But the big change that you need to be aware of, the really big change, is that I said earlier on that there's no legal requirement to tell a renovation officer any alterations. Well, last year, primary legislation was passed for what they call the duty to inform. And that is when you have to, by law, with threat of a prison sentence, you're going to have to let them know if you make any changes. And now okay, going forward, that might seem like, well, that's fairly straightforward. But if we bear in mind that we've got a database of 35 years out of date, some of it, if you take a lease on a new building and you go in there and you get a request for information, have you made any changes? That might well like, no. But you don't know whether somebody else made changes in 1997 or 2000 or 2001. So this is going to be an onerous task and very worrying that you could find that you take a building on and you're told by the agent that the rate of value is 30,000 quid. Then suddenly the VOA turned up and it's not 30,000 quid, it's 50,000 quid. And you get, but you can't be backdated before the previous refund, but you might get 2 or 3 years of money to pay back. So your business plan goes out the window. So that is a real big worry. They haven't, which is not in this paper, but that is coming. And the interesting thing about that, knowing what I know, is that the VOA don't have enough staff now to deal with the work they've got now. How the hell are they going to cope with 10 million forms coming in, or whatever it is, telling them about changes or not changes and check them all. I have no idea. It's chaos. And when you have chaos, you end up with a bad result. So, you know, I can see faces thinking this is worrying. I hope it's making sense, and it's making sense in no sense, to be perfectly honest. But, yeah.
Sorry, Chris, when is that duty to inform actually come in?
It's going to start in 2026, they say, and be phased in by 2029. But I just think, you know, it's really dangerous for all of us in business. You know, we're already, you know, if you look at, for anybody non-retail, well, retail bad enough, but non-retail, if you've got a warehouse or a factory or offices, you're already, I think, going to face increases in payments, multipliers, because of the reduction for the high street. If on top of that you've got the VOA becoming much more snooping around and wanting to know who made the changes, you're going to face massive changes. And I think, you know, it's been said, and this is not political, but it's been said that the cabinet has nobody inside of run a business. So to me, how the hell can you run a business and have a business plan if you've got no idea what your property tax is going to be? And this is a really serious situation. You know, if you look at the effective business rates, we do tend to switch off from it, but just down the road is House of Fraser. When House of Fraser went bust 7 years ago, 6 years ago, the big thing, the top of their list of reasons why we went bust was because of business rates. And to me, this is it's a major tax that all business face, and yet it's a shambles, and the shambles is going to get worse. So, and the other thing is, over the years, you know, you have, just to make it more complicated, you have more and more things like you have reliefs. Under 12,000 rate of value, we don't pay anything. We go back to the end of the Thatcher era when they had enterprise, so rate free. Well, when you're doing it sounds great, but when you do a business plan for a new, and I've done it myself, you have an allocation of money for rent and rates. So if you don't pay any rates, what do? You offer more rent. So in those areas where you've got no rates to pay, the rents go up. So then, of course, that means that when you do the next revaluation, you might go over the threshold for entry rate, for small business relief. But then the revaluation comes along, and because you're paying higher rent, your rate value goes up over the limit, so you start paying more rates and you pay more rents. So the whole business rate system is a real big mess. So that's where I don't think I need to say it more. I can see a lot of faces looking. This is also taking the government have asked for responses by March. So Chris and I are going to get together and try and put something together. It's, you know, I have the benefit of years of experience of doing this, but trying to understand it all and the problem is trying to make sense of an organisation that is clueless. Until 2017, it's all right, if you want to use it today, when you put an appeal in the property act of Southbound, what address is it? I go back to my desk, I can put an appeal straight in, it's half a minute. And from 2017 onwards, they brought in what they call check, challenge, appeal. Well, it's a system designed to make it impossible. I have to go and sit with the client and talk them through how they can actually register on the system and then appoint me as the agent. And then I have to claim the property. And to show you how incompetent they are, anybody in the room wants to go on the valuation of this agency website, just put in find our rateable value, go to the VOA website and have a look what it says at the top of the page. It says, this is beta, this is a new system, please let us know if you can make any changes to it. It's said that since 2016. And so that just gives you an idea of how things are really desperately out of kilter. So there we go. And I hope that makes some sense. Any questions, anybody?
It's not a question, it's more of a statement really, because this is something that's put me, the whole business rate system, ever since I've started doing this job. It isn't working. It never has really worked, to be quite honest, and it's just getting worse. So when you get papers like that, saying transforming business rates, you're thinking, all right, somebody's going to do something about this. But all it is just filling around the edges and actually making the system potentially even less effective than it actually is, putting more on some businesses. Was the vision in getting a new style of business rate system that actually promotes growth which is one of the key things that this government wants, instead of forcing more work on business owners, the people that made the growth, and actually costing them more money for very little return. Everyone's going to end up paying more. I mean, William, I'm trying to think what your business rate bill is going to start to looking like. There you go, extra £1 million, just like that. Okay? So you start to think then, well, hang on a minute, where's that money actually going? What is it paying for? What benefit do I get from this? We talked in the past about things like hypothecation. I know that's a dirty word sometimes in certain places. Seems a bit odd, that, doesn't it? But you know what I mean. Government and other organisations don't like that because then it's got to be spent for something in that area. But I'll tell you something, I bet as a business owner, people much rather have that system than being, you know, fleeced basically for very little return. Where's the vision in some of this rather than putting a new process in place? Why not a big fundamental change?
Well, let me answer because I haven't mentioned so much. In this paper here, it talks about tackling avoidance and evasion. Well, if any of us in the room wants to, as I said, Robert really quid to invest, so you put it into shares, say, and you end up getting no dividend, so you don't pay the tax because you didn't get a dividend. But if you put it into a property and it's empty, you pay business rates on it. So this, when they talk about tackling avoidance and evasion, the big thing in this paper, it's about people that are avoiding paying empty rates, which is a tax on an investment they've made in which they're getting no return. I've had clients go bankrupt because of that. So instead of saying it's immoral, they're just saying, no, we're going to tackle evasion, and they call it evasion. You're evading a tax on an income you haven't got. And that's classically just set it up. It should be abolished.
So the system is wrong. This goes a made to start. Perhaps it's not radical enough for my viewpoint of view, if you want to use that phrase. You know, it's just tinkering around the edges, and we need something a little bit more radical.
Does anybody know any idea when rates first started? Anybody any idea when the rates? 600. Very good. The Poor Relief Act, 1601. That was it, yeah. Now, what that's been helpful, it really helps in the chapters on, figure 3, because it is such a complicated statistic, but it is just something to be well aware of. It's very dangerous and will certainly affect us at big time.
Thank you, Chris. That was really informative. So now I would like to hand over to Wayne Jones, who's going to talk to us about the Liverpool-Manchester Railway.
Cameron Wayne, is this the positive slot?
No, you just stole me thunder. I think Christopher's Latin for the bearer of bad news. So my role in the next 10 minutes is to get you all excited and up to speed. So yeah, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Liverpool-Manchester Railway. I don't know if any of you heard about it, but it's kind of an idea to speed up the connection to two areas, Manchester and Liverpool. When I say speed up the connection, we have to be careful because I think the biggest issue with HS2 was everybody thought it was about speed. But this isn't about speed, this is about connectivity, it's about all kinds of things. Obviously, maybe the historians amongst you will know that in 1824 we built a railway, the first railway between Manchester and Liverpool, yeah? Took 4 years to build. So obviously now, in 2025, with technology, with the capability to do things much faster, we'll be able to do that in 2045. So that's the prediction of the first spade in the ground. My middle name is Christopher, of course, so I'm Christopher Jones. No, so seriously, it really is. I think it's an exciting project, and as I say, it's not just about speed, but it's kind of interesting because I was moved up the order this morning because John's train was cancelled. So I think you couldn't write certain positive views. So they're trying to look at innovative ways. So instead of just kind of plodding on with the normal way, I think this is perceived to be quite revolutionary. They put kind of a partnership board together. A number of big companies you can see, obviously, me from the Chamber,
Langell Rourke are involved. So Langell Rourke most famously delivered the Everton Stadium. I think it was a day before the original target, was under budget, and Liverpool fans tell me in the board that it's going to be the best stadium in the Championship next year. So it should be quite good. But it's good to get this mix, and the idea is to try and get this place-based bottom-up solutions and try and look at improving that time in 2045. And I'm sure with the skills I've been lucky enough to travel many places around the world, and those who've been to Japan or Korea, then the train networks, first of all, are built extremely quickly, and secondly, extremely efficiently. And maybe just to set the bar, I was travelled from Tokyo to Kyoto one time. The train was 9 seconds late, and they apologised on the Tannoy system for 9 seconds. I mean, that's an unbelievable scenario. So that's what the partnership board consists of. This is about the train itself, so it's about a regular, reliable and faster trains, Liverpool, Warrington, the airport, city centre, Crewe, Chester and beyond. Again, technology-wise, we should be able to speed up the number of trains per hour. We've got digital solutions around us now, so you could imagine that will be quicker. But again, I don't want to focus on that because, first of all, it's not just about passengers, it's about freight. And I think any of us who drove around the network, and if you drive around any motorway around the northwest of England, then there's a huge amount of freight that's on that road. So improving that, expanding capacity, and looking at these the growth zones as well. It's kind of transformational as well. Chris Fletcher will be super happy because he'll get his Piccadilly Underground railway station that he's been craving for a couple of decades now. But of course, that's what it's all about, is about transferring. And then also this integrated network system, which is much better. I mean, again, in Korea, for example, it's quicker to go by rail from the capital down to Busan than it is to go by airplane. And that isn't been the journey time, but the time you've gone to the airport, have to go through security, etc. So you encourage people to use that infrastructure, and of course it's more environmentally friendly as well, which is one of the big items. There's some work to do, so the proposal is they set up some kind of focus teams to look at some of the key things, the workforce stability and planning, big thing for us. Chris talked about LSIP, the skills development training, innovation, how can we do it quicker? Again, going to the Everton Stadium, there wasn't a bricklayer on site, there wasn't a piece of scaffolding on site when they actually built that stadium. They modularised everything, rented a warehouse, chipped it in and connected it all together. So there must be ways of doing that. Of course, retention of talent, you can imagine, despite the news on the apprenticeship levy, you could actually get a huge benefit here in putting apprentices in the construction industry. It's economic and regional development, talking about significant number of houses. I don't know, but if you build more than 15,000 houses in one site, it becomes a town. So you have to put a town in place, so that could be interesting. There were some new towns along the link as well. And of course, environmentally, it's a key thing about that sustainability that we need. It links in with what makes the things. I mean, there's so much going on in the northwest, whether it's the new port in Liverpool, whether it's the airport, whether it's Aton Valley. Of course, the idea is that you enhance the movement. And if you can imagine the journey time between Manchester and Liverpool, is it 40 minutes or 30 minutes? Can you imagine the journey time around London? 30 minutes is absolutely nothing. Yeah, yet we struggle to get that connectivity when in London it's just easily done. And Chris mentioned Elizabeth Line. I mean, things just happen so much quicker, and we need to make those things happen quicker here. So lots of things that will drive that growth. It's no surprise to us either. That's the campaign for business 2024 for the Chamber. So we talk about skills, we talk about trade, the business conditions, net zero, but also about that connectivity. So it's something that is passionate within the Chamber of Commerce, and it's passionate within the business area. What we need to do now is to communicate it correctly. We don't want it to be another HS2. We need to communicate the real reasons why we want to do it. And of course, the other thing we've got to do is speed it up. Because I'm involved in this, my 10-minute presentation is going to be 3.5 hours, so I'll get some water and biscuits for you just to keep me going. But on a serious note, if we can, increase the speed from 2045, then I think there's something significantly wrong. And this is not about speed of build. Of course, what we know, it's about bureaucracy. Yeah? And the key thing is we need to really change that bureaucracy, otherwise we won't develop as a country going forward. Okay, quick overview. Any questions? Yes.
Wait, just a fact, I was wrong. It came on this morning with the thought it was 35 minutes.
35 minutes, yeah. Yeah, okay. I think that's the proper record, yeah.
Is it not?
Yeah, lady at the back and then Chris.
Just curious, it's a bit of an open-ended question. So, how do we change bureaucracy?
That is a brilliant question.
Are there any concrete steps in place, or ideas, or
No, I mean,
projects or things?
I think one of the ideas of that kind of partnership board is to try and drive that change, because you've got, you know, big entities, big private sector companies like Van Gogh Rock, like the universities as well that are involved. And I think it's got to be, that change has got to be from within. And if you talk to the colleagues in the team from TFGM or from other governmental areas, you really sense a frustration that these things can't be quicker. And will we be able to change it? I can't stand here and say, yeah, we can, but let's hope we can try and at least influence it in a different way. This is quite a significant change for me if you want to speak up.
I mean, I think what I was thinking was, thank you. You know, have there been any concrete steps? Is there like a committee been put together to perhaps, you know, break this down into kind of bite-sized chunks so that we can actually get working on that? And if so, you know, can us as business owners be part of that? Because one of the things that we are quite good at is, you know, overcoming obstacles, getting around them, getting through them, getting under them, you know. So those kind of practical steps I think will benefit everybody. If there's anything going on, you know, I think it'd be worth knowing about it.
I think the committee is the partnership board. I think that's one of the ideas. The work streams that I showed there, trying to break it down, eat the elephant in chunks. I think the fact that it's not this big HS2 kind of approach, it's only Liverpool to Manchester, and actually there's not all the permissions granted for that yet, so there's still some work to do there. But I think if you're going to try and do it, that's probably a better way of at least trying to attack the job. Chris? Oh, sorry, you're over there.
Sorry.
Just a quick one. As a train user, I am a big fan and I'm interested in the project between Liverpool and Manchester. But when I think back over the last couple of years, there was talk about the train line going over to Leeds and to Sheffield, and where I'm based in Rochdale, to go to Leeds, it's a little bit of a trial, it's a bit of a stopper. So why is the focus just on Liverpool to Manchester and not just over to Manchester and Leeds to try and get that connectivity throughout the north of England?
No, that's a great question. And I think maybe some of it is only a personal opinion, maybe some of it is, you know, instead of looking at a massive HS2 project, is let's get that successful and then build the next step, because actually we should link Liverpool all the way across the country to Hull, and that should be the absolute goal, yeah. So I think that could be one of the reasons. Chris?
Yeah, just I'm following up on that. I came in from Rochdale this morning, and I'm from Hull originally, and they are working on a Transpennine line now over to Leeds and York, but not to Hull.
Yeah.
But I was just going to make a comment that we're not talking Liverpool Manchester, we're not about speed, is it? If we look back to Virgin, when you took over the line from London, it wasn't, it was fantastic, because you go to Euston and it's a train every 20 minutes, that was the transformation. So you weren't hanging around, it's fine that the train takes an hour and 3/4, but you've got to wait half an hour to catch it, but you're walking and you get straight on the train again. Yeah. Surely the same would apply. What we're looking for is not speed, it's about capacity.
It's about integrated transport systems, about capacity, not speed. I mean, HS2, again, it's a big thing. I mean, even Aslef were upset by HS2 because they wanted to disrupt another part of the railway system, yeah? So even they were upset about it. So this is not about speed, it's about capacity and connectivity.
But the frustration, if you look at London, people travel in from Bournemouth on a daily basis. Well, if you look at Bournemouth to London, Hull to Liverpool is about the same distance, and yet it's 8 hours now.
Yeah.
I think the one thing about the Rochdale service, if I go back to a few years ago, we used to have trains about once every, there was one at 22 and one on the hour, and that was it. But now we do have a lot more trains. They might come in late, it was late 5 minutes this morning, but there was about 6 trains in an hour, which has been a massive improvement.
Yeah.
concerned University of Salford. I had to say it, Wayne, University of Salford was an etc. on your slide, so...
All right, yes. Peter, I knew you'd pick me up on that one, yeah.
I think just speaking to the lady at the back, the next meeting is next week, and the themes that are coming through are obviously things like land value capture, infrastructure delivery systems and skills, and I think the private sector is well represented there.
Yeah.
The PDF is on the website,
Yeah.
and so just all have a look at that.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I'm delighted to introduce John Rathmell, who is going to talk to us about Greater Manchester strategy update and the devolution update and some of the Greater Manchester combined authority.
Thank you very much. Yes, that's right. I'm responsible for strategy research and economy at the Combined Authority, and it's such an important and powerful relationship between what we do at the Combined Authority, working to the Mayor and to our other leaders across Greater Manchester, and with them with the Chamber of Commerce. I mean, I think we're in touch day in, week out, and that's a really important part of how we set our strategy and priorities, but also our ambitions for devolution as well. So I'm just going to talk a little bit this morning about sort of where we are on the refresh of our Greater Manchester strategy, and also where we are in some of those discussions with national government as well about where we might take devolution next, and hopefully keep up the sort of positive spirit of what we might be able to achieve in Greater Manchester, whatever's happening in the outside world that also impacts on us. So, first of all, on the Greater Manchester strategy. So some of you will be very familiar with this, will have been involved in the strategy as it's evolved, I mean, over more than 2 decades now, in different forms, and I think over time has given a sense of direction and hopefully stability and consistency to what's happening in the city region as well. It's a strategy, it's not just a combined authority strategy, it's not just a public sector strategy, it's something we develop and look to deliver with partners across sector, with the Chamber, other business partners as well, and the voluntary community, faith, social enterprise sectors. It's refreshed after each mayoral election, so that when a new mayor comes in each time, or as it turns out the same mayor keeps coming back after an election, we refresh it to capture the sort of manifesto commitments that the mayor has made, but also then fit in the wider context of what we're doing in Greater Manchester, with the general election last year on a slightly slower timetable than we planned, but getting well into it now. So whilst there's been a sort of consistency to the strategy, hopefully over 2 decades or more, we are taking a slightly different approach this time, based on the steers from the Mayor and other leaders. And that's to make the strategy itself more of a vision document. For those who've seen the strategy before, there's quite a lot of detail in there, it tries to capture quite a lot of activity. This time the aim is to have a strategy which is shorter, clearer, more accessible for businesses, for residents to sort of understand where we're trying to get to, and tangible examples of what we're going to deliver and what that vision looks like. So we're engaging at the moment across our local authorities, across sectors and other partners to make sure that we're going to capture the right elements there. I think the things that it will focus on are consistent over time, making sure people have good homes, making sure that we've got a prosperous city region, making sure we're hitting our environmental goals, making sure we've got safe communities. So in that sense, there'll be a lot of, I think, continuity in that ambition, but we're going to try and set it out in a slightly different way, make it a clearer vision of what we're all trying to get to. And the detail, if that's what we're trying to do, how we're going to get there is going to sit in a delivery plan which we'll put together to explain how the strategies are going to be achieved, with a couple of particular priorities in there. One, economic growth, which of course business growth is a key part, so thinking about how our business support and innovation systems work? Are they working for you? Are they delivering what the city region needs? Alongside the sort of project pipelines, the regeneration, the investment, the infrastructure that goes in. And then the other thing, the main theme around perhaps more focused on public services and the outcomes there, sort of prevention in the sense of trying to deal with some of the costs that all our services are struggling with, whether it's the NHS, whether it's our local councils. Can we get ahead of some of those problems to stop costs before they arise, but also get ahead of some of the issues that then cause so much sort of social and individual harm to individuals? Can we find a different way of working? Can we pilot a different approach in Greater Manchester, which really shifts the system? So the delivery plan will then capture how we're going to work doing that, and how we maximise resources available to us, including, and I'll come back to this in a moment, what we as Greater Manchester are then saying to national government about what we need from national government, particularly through the next spending review around investment, how the next stages of devolution. It will also, as some of you might be aware, the national government has asked places to produce a local growth plan for their areas. I mean, our immediate response was, we've got a local growth plan. And the idea is that our intention is that this delivery plan, the elements of this delivery plan will then form that local growth plan for Greater Manchester. So it's very much focused on what we're trying to achieve and our objectives, rather than trying to jump through too many national hoops. I think by the time we get to the summer, we'll almost certainly have to produce a PDF document with a nice shiny cover on it, saying it's our local growth plan, but making it be well and truly rooted and cited in what we're trying to achieve in Greater Manchester. And this just captures the sort of how we're going to put that delivery plan together. In Greater Manchester, we're not short of plans and strategies. We like a good plan. There are some there that we're very familiar, and many of them worked with the Chamber on already. It's our local industrial strategy we've had in place since 2019. Skills of work came in, talking about the local skills improvement plan, but also sort of reaching out more widely across other parts of what's delivered Greater Manchester, our transport plan, policing and crime, bringing colleagues from NHS as well. So the idea is that what we'll do won't duplicate everything that's already out there, it won't duplicate everything the Chamber's already doing. What we'll do is bring that together, to pull out the priorities and knit it together to show how those ambitions are going to be delivered. So that's the plan for the refresh of that strategy and the delivery plan, and as that starts to develop over the coming months, keep in touch with Chamber colleagues here, but it'd be very helpful to get any initial thoughts now on key things that you want to see in there, both in that vision, but also what we deliver, but I'm going to keep coming back with as we develop the detail as well. The thing I was just going to touch on was where we are in that wider devolution discussion with national government as well, because as I said, in terms of delivering that, there's a lot we can do in Greater Manchester already through the powers we've got, through the partnerships we've got, but we still need national governments to be investing alongside us, working alongside us, so which takes us to the question of devolution. So the devolution white paper, as you might be aware, was published back in December. It was great in the sense of it took what was being achieved in Greater Manchester and talked about how that can be spread across the rest of the country, so we see more mayors, we see more devolution powers elsewhere. But the point which our mayor and the leaders made fairly robustly to ministers was, yes, but what's next for Greater Manchester? How do we keep the ambition? How do we keep pushing the frontier here? How do we make sure that more decisions about what happens in Greater Manchester can be made here in Greater Manchester? The result of that was that the Deputy Prime Minister and Chancellor agreed to set up a group that's been convened by senior officials of the Treasury and the Ministry for Housing and Local Government, which we are working with over the next few months on what are the next steps, what is needed to drive the next stage of growth in Greater Manchester, with a view to then putting proposals in get the spending review coming in June. So having the Treasury behind us and convening that group can only be helpful. No promises on money, but it can only be helpful in getting to something that hopefully we can get that investment and further powers in place. Some of the initial areas being explored are captured there. So I mentioned the unlocking of the growth pipeline. I mentioned the next stage of the skills work, the MBAT, which the Chamber are closely involved with as well. How will we get more funding around innovation locally and get that embedded in the city region alongside demonstrating how we do that prevention of public services and unlock the growth pipeline of projects. Atom Valley's already been mentioned this morning. Some other big regional projects around Greater Manchester. Also talk about the old traffic redevelopment recently as well. So we'll be capturing all of that. And then the expansion of the B network. Obviously, we've now completed the bus franchising process, so we can start to integrate our buses and trams. Next goal, how do we bring overland trains into that as well, where there are commuter routes in the out of Greater Manchester. And some of the civil servants at the Ministry of Local Government said, well, we can do it. Quite a lot of barriers are doing it here. That's in response to the Department of Transport. Very good objections. But anyway, we will get there so that we can knit that in, and that also, of course, then dock into what we were just talking about in terms of that wider connectivity across the north to Liverpool and more wide. So that was everything I'm just going to cover on where we are on the strategy, but also where we are in terms of our discussion with the government. But so very happy to take any questions or any thoughts as well on what do we need to be thinking about? What are the key issues for you in that development of the strategy and the plan?
That's me again. A quick question. What you're talking about, transport integration, is effectively going back to pre-privatisation time. So in the same way, have you considered whether Greater Manchester, as part of devolution, could take over setting its own business rate multiplier?
So we haven't proposed that specifically to government, but there is a discussion that's been happening, we're well aware, happening for a while now, as to where does fiscal devolution sit in this? Where do tax powers sit in this discussion around devolution? Now, I think we've made some progress on getting more control of local resources, for example, through the integrated settlement, which is giving us more funding to control locally. There are sort of limited tax powers available as well. The discussion about things like where our visitor levies are an option here, given they're happening in other parts of the UK. There are also discussions around could land value capture sit in some of this, how to fit in the investment piece. So there's a wider discussion of resources. There's some specific discussion about tax. I think we're some way off that national government being willing to loosen their grip around property taxation and allow us to do something different. But it's on the horizon, I'd say.
Well, just as this gentleman who got the question right, 390 years, the rules are set by the local authority.
Yeah, and that's not just in the setting of taxes as well. The UK has become more and more centralised over 6 decades, and what's now hopefully doing is to the point where it's probably the most centralised developed country in the world. So what we're doing is hopefully rolling that back bit by bit.
You talk about good housing at the start of the presentation. There was no mention of affordable housing. Now, what will be done to people? What commitments will they make that allows people to buy or have access to property? Because the rental market in Manchester Centre is ridiculous. Yeah. And the quality of housing, the high-rise tower blocks that are going up in the city, are poor in reality. So what commitments will you make towards allowing people, young and old, to buy property in the city?
Yeah, so mentions good housing, very much as a sort of, at the very highest level, and there are, as you say, a lot of dimensions to that. You might be aware that the Mayor, when in his manifesto last year, made a commitment to housing first, and that is how, and housing is various dimensions in terms of more of it is needed for lots of reasons, the quality, needs to be increased and it needs to be more affordable. So he's pushing us on all three of those dimensions, and I think and all of that will be definitely in the delivery plan. On the in terms of sort of the general narrative around the strategy, the story that the strategy tells, can't speak to the mayor, but the sort of the way he puts it to us is housing is at the reason he talks about housing first is because housing is at the base of everything else. If people don't have good quality affordable housing, then all the other things on here, the ability to get around the city region, the ability to work, the ability people's health, none of the rest of that is going to be delivered unless we get that foundation. Now, are we going to be able to transform all of it straight away? Obviously not, but it's actually, I think it'll be the top priority here that sort of everything else flows through.
Hi John, my name is Kashif, I'm the Oldham President of the Chamber, and I'm really keen on, the growth and prosperity of Greater Manchester, but I'm even more keen on the growth of Oldham. So, really my question is, I know that over the years we've all seen lots of plans and it's one of the things we want to do, but how can the Oldham business community help shape that plan just to, help, I don't want to say it, but make Oldham better than the rest of the That's what I actually want.
I'm going to avoid commenting on the last part. I mean, Cash and I are on the Oldham Economy Board together, so the part of this is an ongoing discussion. I mean, so I think where Oldham are at the moment is absolutely putting the right elements in place, the right conditions in place to make a contribution to everything that's going on in Greater Manchester, because actually we're not going to succeed in delivering the ambitions here unless every part of Greater Manchester is able to contribute as well as benefit from that. And I think the work of the Oldham Economic Review 4 years ago now, we're involved in that, and everything that's come out of that in terms of building the business networks locally and revitalising those on social enterprise, saying the social enterprise networks, saying having the plan now in place for the regeneration of the town itself and that investment going in, as well as thinking about where Oldham's place is in that wider network of Greater Manchester. So Aston Valley being a good example where now alongside Rochdale and Bury Oldham is sort of playing a big role. So I think all the right elements are in place for that. I mean, clearly there are some immense challenges. There are other national contexts and economic challenges which are pushing in the opposite direction. But I think I'm optimistic that Oldham businesses are playing an increasingly important role in shaping the future of Oldham, and then through that future Greater Manchester.
By the way, I'm always saying that, so Oldham could share about the practice.
Exactly. Fully measure that.
Yeah.
Hi John, we met in my last job at Common Purpose, so hi in person. I'm now Director of Fundraising at Manchester Youth, so up in our break, and it's the first time attending one of these assemblies in this role, and starting this session to scare the life out of me in terms of national insurance contribution, national living wage, and being a Director of Fundraising, trying to support a charity that needs to raise 1.8 million a year to just open the doors, is a massive challenge. And then as the session's been going, it's kind of like, it's kind of more enlightening in terms of what the city's doing to support the actual city, but where are the plans in terms of involving young people through that? So we have around 4,000 young people, just over, per year that come through our doors, about 1,200 a week. Loads that will be going through employment quite soon, looking at what their options look like in that sense. So how can we as a youth zone shape some of those plans to kind of get people into work earlier than what they are doing at the moment?
Congratulations on the new role. So I think through a few different routes, and glad, and hopefully, despite some of the challenges on the national context, hopefully we are able to provide more hope and a sort of positive direction within Greater Manchester, so it's good if we're able to do that. So I think I talked a bit about the strategy being more something that's more simple, understandable. There's a vision for residents, and I think that of those residents, young people absolutely are clearly a key part of that. What we're looking to do is make do engagement around the development of that vision, so very happy to have a conversation afterwards about how we pick that up. But also for when it's launched, as it were, we probably should have said we're aiming sort of middle of the year as Greater Manchester, and then we just all going away back to our offices to breathe away at it. But to be something that develops, that engages our communities on, and that probably in a very different way to the way we built the Greater Manchester Strategy before. And of course, I know that the colleagues at Manchester, Councillor Craig, is overseeing this process as well as the refresh the Manchester's ambitions as well, which will come just before that as well. So there's a whole lot of networks there around that. I know the councillor involved in as well in terms of bringing in young people and communities more widely. So very happy to have a chat, but yeah, that is very much part of the thinking, in a bit of a shift in how the top level strategy changes. You know, the delivery plan then carries on as the sort of the detail of to deliver on that.
Okay, any more questions?
Hi, I'm Sharon Seville, I'm Vice President for Stockport, so Cash, you and I can have a chat later. Stockport is the best place, of course. But I just wanted to ask, is there any kind of thing in play or something that you're looking at? Because the economic inactivity rate is about 5 times higher at the moment than the unemployment rate. And I work in recruitment, and I've worked in recruitment for 30 years, so I've seen these challenges in skills and labour. I don't know what the figures are for Greater Manchester, but a 5 times higher economically inactive rate than unemployment is ridiculous, and something needs to change on that, because if we're talking about growth, we really can't do it without people and labour to supply the roles that companies need. So is there anything that's going to be happening on that front, John?
So yes, and you probably, you've picked me up a bit on when I was describing the priorities of the strategy, I maybe separated them out a bit too much on the sort of the growth versus the prevention, because on that prevention side, I mean, clearly supporting people so they're able to then get back into work is a key part of what drives our growth agenda. So maybe I separated those out a bit too clearly, too much from each other. But yes, so a couple of things. So as part of the Great Britain working, Get Britain Working White Paper that the DWP put out, there's a trailblazer here in Greater Manchester around tackling inactivity. A relatively small amount of money attached, but what we're trying to do is, in true Greater Manchester fashion, take these sort of slightly siloed approaches which drop on the national government and knit them together into something that's more effective and more consistent. So bringing that together with our integrated settlement, where we've got more control over funding, including some DWP funding, but also perhaps more important, bringing together our system of, you may have heard the Mayor talk about Live Well, having Live Well centres, so making sure that Job Centre Plus is properly engaged with the voluntary community sector, making sure that health services are provided, because supporting people out of inactivity back into work, you need to knit together things at a local level in a way that naturally just flow. So, short answer, yes, absolutely. That is going to need to be part of our what we deliver on growth if we're going to deliver those ambitions.
And are you open to ideas and suggestions? Okay, well then we need to have a chat.
Yeah, we're very much in the early stage of that, so absolutely.
Any further questions, comments? No? Thank you very much, John. Okay, so now we are at any other business part of the meeting. I know Chris is going to pop up and say something about trade tariffs, but if there's anything else people want to raise, now's the moment to. Thank you. Another exciting topic.
here I am again, Mr. Doom and Gloom. Before I start, I'll just say a couple of things actually. Just set it in context, because looking back and thinking about it, I'm perhaps maybe a little bit too down your feet. And I've said this publicly beforehand, but I'll tell you something, if I wanted to run a business and start a business, there's nowhere else I'd choose other than Greater Manchester. Because of what John's just said, and he skimmed over it there in a great amount of information. Other parts of the country are so far behind where we are when it comes to wanting to do some of that stuff. They're not going to do it till 2045. We can do it in Greater Manchester because we've got that leadership, we've got the ability, we've got the money, we've got the power to actually do it. And again, I've said this to a lot of people now, you're in the best place you can be in the country, and I don't feel it at times, but you are when it comes to that sort of stuff because we can do it. What our job here in the chamber is to make sure that we protect some of that, and we bounce some of that off and let some things through, but we need to know what you as businesses think about it as well. Which brings me on to trade tariffs. Okay, I want to get ahead of the curve on this because to be quite honest, I have no idea what Donald Trump's agenda is with trade tariffs. It's I'm just going to say, I don't think he has. It's a big stick he's waving around in all sorts of directions. You want to use it against drug cartels, you want to use it as an economic tool to stop steel and aluminium imports. I think it just doesn't make any sense. The danger is, though, that when you've got like a bit of a loose cannon flying around and all things like that, it starts to land before you know it. So what we're really looking for is where you begin to sense what impact that may have on your business. Let us know about it, because we really need to get on top of this. And one of the things in the, I mentioned it before, the trade review that we did, the trade consultation, and also in the industrial strategy response as well, around international trade, was making a point around we need to be on top of this. It's going to happen somewhere, we don't quite know where, but what we don't want to be doing is saying, oh, you know, I've never thought of that. Now obviously we can't second guess somebody like Donald Trump, but we know something's going to happen, so please be aware of that. You start to hear things or start to see how that's impacting on your business or hear about it, please get in touch because we need to just have that on our radar screens really. So that's all I want to say on that, so I've done enough gloom and doom this morning. We're here for you. If there's anything affecting your business, you let us know about it. Okay, we can do something. And the letter to the Chancellor, we will make that public. Okay? We will make that public and we'll pick up a couple of points that we've mentioned here today. And again, we're not shouting at anybody with that. It's reasoned arguments and actual impact as well. So we will make that public to people. Paul?
Thanks, Chris. Just like I said to everybody that's contributed to the Assembly today, I think the variety of topics has been great and really interesting and enlightening and a good conversation. So well done for everybody who's put the agenda together and contributed and spoken. I'm Paul Winterbottom, I'm Vice President of Trafford for the Chamber. Something that I might have missed that you might be doing well in the Chamber already, so if I am, put me right. But one of the things that the clients that I work with and the businesses that I talk to, I'm really encouraging a dialogue around this year is in relation to the use of AI technology in business. Speaking personally, and I'm not the earliest of early adopters, you know, ChatGPT came onto my radar the start of last year. It had been around obviously before then, but it started to become common parlance and people dabbled with it. And I think in 2025, any business that is not seriously looking at how AI technology can provide benefit, and whether that's around efficiency or productivity or streamlining, I think anybody that's not doing that is missing a trick. Now, that's great, but the proliferation of AI technologies that exist is quite daunting to the small business person. You know, ChatGPT, lots of people know about, but there's so many other
technologies that are either niche or not well communicated. And I just wonder whether there's an opportunity for the Chamber to find a way of sharing what is working well for small businesses in Greater Manchester in a way that's helping them to incorporate and adopt efficiencies and better ways of working in their business.
I think it's a good point, and I totally agree. And when we go back to the work we've done on the local skills improvement plan, when we started that 2022, AI wasn't being mentioned that much. Now everybody mentions it. As you can see in that short space of time, it's suddenly gone into that priority. And of course, again, looking over the Atlantic and all sorts of things going on there at present with AI. And we've also had recently, I think it was Department for Business and Trade, I may be wrong, it might be the Treasury, put out a call for AI growth zones interests. John's nodding, so probably something our friends over at the CA are looking at. So there's all sorts of things going on with that. From something actual specific, I'm just looking at Lewis and Lucy there, because we have got a lot of events taking place now, roundtables and the like, whereby businesses are talking about AI and AI-specific activities. So it's something we're certainly aware of. I don't know if you want to add anything, Lucy.
Yeah, we're working in Inform on a the Modern Workplace programme, which is fully funded for phase 1, and it's 90% funded for phase 2. Phase 1 covers like the foundations of AI, the use cases in a business, and then phase 2, which is 90% funded, so it's £500 per person, is a 16-week programme where you can actually give the specialist projects for your business or challenges, and they will help you with how to apply AI in like an ethical, responsible way, but to kind of increase efficiencies and things like that. The Chamber are actually on that programme, so we've done phase 1, and we're now on phase 2, because we need to be leading the way, so we need to be doing it ourselves, as well as showing our members how to do it. So we will share details of that programme in the follow-up, and any other events that we're running as well, but it's a really good point.
I think we've got 2 comments at the front as well. So Christian first.
Hi everyone, my name is Christian Manser, I'm partner at Gordon Solicitors and non-exec director here at the Chamber. Just a quick plug, I'm involved in trying to get a professional services club off the ground at the Chamber. So for anyone who works in the professional services sector and may be of interest, we've got an event coming up on Friday, which I hope is not fully booked, so probably a few places available. But it's in conjunction with the Bank of England. So we've got the North West agents and deputy agent for the Bank of England coming in here. It's Chatham House rules, but they're usually pretty frank and interesting conversations, especially after the Monetary Policy Committee update last week. So if you are interested and you've got nothing better to do on Valentine's Day on Friday, please come down here and spend the morning with myself, a load of other professionals and the Bank of England. Thank you very much.
And Cash.
Actually, I was going to say the same as Lucy, but do you know the Modern Workplace, it was done in the Chamber in partnership with Inform, and I think we have over 75 plus businesses, and all I can say is that it was mind-blowing. And it was, the main thing is it was actually, it kind of related to how it can help your business. So I think we've got 2 people from Inform here today, so if you want to speak to them, you can do something.
Thank you.
Can I just say something else as well on the subject of skills? We've got our T-level students in today as well, so the Chamber's got a couple of T-level students coming in, so we're not just talking the talk, we're walking the walk as well, and the inclusion of T-levels is a major part of where we need to go, the technical city region and that skills bit, so great to see you today. Just embarrassing a little bit more.
Okay, so in closing, can I just thank everybody for attending today. Thank you for all your contributions. Thank you to our fantastic speakers. And we really are the best city in the country, so, and all the whole region, absolutely. Okay, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.